Okay, folks, let's get this out of the way. This will be part 2 of 2, kind of a series I did. Well, it does pertain to the Black Lives Matter crap, but not many moons ago, but quite a while earlier this year, I did a study. I went through as many cities as I could, studying homicide rates from 2015 to 2017. In my previous installment, I asked a specific question. If you weren't a friend of mine, you had to answer this question. What do Baltimore, Detroit, Cleveland, Jackson, Mississippi, Memphis, Tennessee, Birmingham, Alabama, New Orleans, aka Orleans Parish, East St. Louis City, Atlanta, Bibb County, Dougherty County, again, I'll have all the links underneath the video, check them, Dougherty County, Georgia, Montgomery City, Alabama, Baton Rouge, and Flint. What did they have in common? I had one person, I think it was one of Sam Seder's autistics, came over and started whining about me being mean, and I told him he looked like he needed to lay off the drugs and go to the dentist, screenshotted his comment, and sent him on his way. You know what those cities had in common? They all had an African-American majority or plurality. Now, for you progressives listening, a plurality would be like Hillary Clinton winning 48% of the vote, but not winning the election. That's a plurality. And Donald Trump getting 45 point some percent. All those cities had an African-American plurality or majority. You know what else they had in common? They all voted Democrat. Every single one of those jurisdictions, and usually by large margins, voted Democrat. You know what else they had in common? Their homicide rate was 35.616, which for the 2015 to 2017 time frame was 6.847 times higher than the national rate. You know what else they had in common? They had a lot of people on food stamps. You know what else they had in common? They had a lot of working age folks. This is basically parents with children at home in public schools that aren't in the labor force. It's not that they're unemployed. They're just not in the labor force, period. You know what else they had in common? A lot of single parent households. And I would assume most of those, it's not that they visit daddy on the weekend. Daddy was never there. Daddy was not even there in utero. All those cities have been run by Democrats for a long time and ran straight into the ground. So in the second part, I added these jurisdictions, and all of them, some of them were an African-American plurality, but all of them had a minority population, since diversity is our strength. So all those cities were diverse, and these cities are diverse as well. Not quite as much as the other ones, but they all have a minority population much higher than the national average. So they are more diverse than the U.S. en masse. So here are these cities: Philadelphia, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, the ones I'm adding, Rochester, New York, Buffalo, New York, Greensboro, North Carolina, Durham, North Carolina, Fayetteville, North Carolina, Milwaukee, Dayton, Ohio, Danville, Virginia, Portsmouth, Virginia, Hampton, Virginia, Newport News, Virginia, Petersburg, Virginia, Norfolk, Virginia, Roanoke, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia, District of Columbia, Compton, California, North Little Rock, Arkansas, Wilmington, Delaware, Newark, New Jersey, Camden, New Jersey, Chicago, Gary, Indiana, and Little Rock, Arkansas. And then I added them all together. All those previous cities with these new cities, the en masse population, 2015 to 2017, of all the Democrat-run, decaying, dying, wilting cities that I mentioned, is 26,685,964. The total number of homicides for those jurisdictions is 5,678. Came out to a homicide rate of 21.277 for those keeping score at home. If we add both sections together, I'm sorry, what I just read was for the new jurisdictions. Add them both together, the cumulative population is a little over 40,700,000. Sorry about that. I'll leave that in there anyway. Their cumulative homicide body count, 10,683. They were 4.199% of the population. All those cities, 4.199% of the entire U.S. population, they were responsible for 21.12% of all the homicides in the entire U.S. for 2015 to 2017. Their homicide rate is an astonishing, in toto, 26.223, which is over 5 times the national average. All those cities, again, are diverse. They have a lot of people on food stamps, a lot of single-parent homes, a lot of working-age folks not in the labor force at all. They all vote Democrat, and they all have a lot of homicide. So it's not a fact if it's racist. So there are a lot of cities in America that need some personal responsibility, and all these cities have been run for Democrats, by Democrats for decades, and some of them for decades and decades and decades, like Chicago, which is going straight down the toilet, and it's not getting any better. And some white billionaire, I don't agree with Jeff Bezos' politics, but some white billionaire with a private jet isn't causing that. It's your own stupidity and really poor choices. So again, it's like progressives having autistic fits when a white guy goes on a shooting spree with a gun. Well, I hate to say, but what doesn't sell the newspapers is the black-on-black homicide, and the homicide in decaying inner city districts of these cities. And that's the truth, but you don't see that on the news because they want to continue the white people suck, white supremacy. No, white supremacy didn't cause you to have kids out of wedlock. White supremacy didn't cause you to use drugs, although I favor ending the war on drugs. I voted for Ron Paul and Rand Paul and Gary Johnson to prove that. You need a little personal responsibility. So the most violent cities in America to close are A, diverse. B, they vote Democrat. C, a lot of food stamps. A lot of households on food stamps. D, another one, a lot of single-parent households, a lot of working-age folks not in the labor force. It's not working. It isn't. Not that there aren't problems in rural white areas. In fact, there are in like West Virginia, New Hampshire, and Ohio, and Kentucky, and some rural white areas with drugs, meth heads. But the majority of the crime issues in the U.S. are in those Democrat cities. 4.199% of the population, 21.12% of all the homicides, a homicide rate of over 26 per 100,000, more than 5 times the national average. Don't thank me now for the info that you can use against these Black Lives Matter psychopaths who think white people are all the problems in the U.S. because they are not.